Hi guys, we are going to work on what I believe is the fifth part of 2-point perspective videos, and our goal is multifaceted. We're kind of getting into some of the trickier stuff, I think. We're going to do angled forms that are a little bit more complex, um, meaning we're combining some of the skills we already learned, both the stacking, which requires a little bit of knowledge of transparent cubes, as well as kind of what you noticed about prisms. We're going to use angles. And then I want to make sure that we tackle cylinder. And if we have time, we'll get on over to an organic form. And for that, we're basically going to use a block letter N, O, and then S will be our organic form. So just to make sure that you at least know kind of what we're trying to create, we're going to use those three letters. My advice for this tutorial is start with a fresh page as you follow along, giving yourself lots of space to work. And then when you do it on your own, definitely grab a second paper and give yourself lots of space again to do this. If you do it all in one page, that's fine. I just think it's a little harder to do because it's complex work and you're doing it really small. So feel free to send me a photo with both papers in it side by side. That way I can see your first attempt lying next to the tutorial, okay? Or your tutorial is the first attempt lying next to your attempt that you did on your own. Anyway, be sure to send me both together. So let's go ahead and get started. I think for the purposes of what we're doing, let's just freehand in a somewhat straight line. I'm going to place it high on the picture plane to give myself lots of room. And I'm going to place our vanishing points far apart. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to begin doing our first kind of complex angled form. So it's going to be the letter N. If we were looking at it straight on, like normal, flat facing us in 1-point perspective, it would just look like this in the stick form. So that's what I want you visualizing in your imagination as we move forward. Of course, like I said, we'll do an O after that, and we'll end with an S. So these are kind of our concepts we're doing in perspective. So here we go. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to give you this tip. My advice is when you're doing block lettering, say this is a big part of your composition for your summative, go ahead and decide right away which way you want your letters to be facing, because we know at 2-point there's always a corner facing us. So do you want the front of the letter facing towards the left or towards the right? In our example, in our demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and have it facing towards the left. So that means I need to start with some major guiding lines. This will represent the height of my letter. So I'm going to do a letter that fits within this frame. If I was going to spell out several things in there, I could almost think of this, well, pretty much think of this as the same thing that we did in elementary school when we used to make dashed line down the middle and we would write our letters in there. That's kind of the concept here. All right, we don't necessarily need that dashed line. We're not doing lowercase and uppercase, so I'm going to skip that. Anyway, so this is going to help get us started. Next thing we're going to do is use vertical lines to create the front posts of the N. Whenever you're creating a block letter or something complex like this, always do kind of like a flat paper side of it facing one direction before you worry about the rest. That way you can start to visualize your letter a little better. What I'm saying hopefully will make more sense the more I add. So I'm doing kind of a flat paper version of the letter N. This is going to represent the front side right here of this post. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this post, which is also vertical. So I'm going to move over, leaving a space for the diagonal part. I'll come back to that. I'm going to put my next vertical line right in here. If your N ends up wider than mine or more, stout looking, things like that, it doesn't matter because it's just a skill set we're working on. The actual aesthetic of it is completely up to you as the artist. I sort of want these to mimic each other in thickness. I want it to be thicker here just because it's getting closer. So I'm going to keep my eye on that, comparing them. All right. So now I have my two straight parts of my N that are vertical here and here. And I'm going to go ahead and erase this extra here that I know I won't be needing. And this extra here that I know I won't be needing. All right, next thing I want to do is the diagonal part. So I need two lines that sort of meet through here across. I'm going to use my ruler just to be consistent. I don't think I need the middle anymore as well, so I'm going to get rid of that now. If I was doing the letter H, it'd be pretty easy, right? I could just do two lines to my vanishing point, 1, 2, and I would have the letter H started. But we're doing something harder. We're doing the N, so I think I'll go from here to maybe here. If it looks bad, I'll fix it. And then I'm going to move down and then reach to the bottom here. Trying to keep that somewhat parallel. So again, play around with the design of your font. It's really up to you. The idea is just to make sure it's in 2-point perspective. All right, I have the front flat side of my N all together here. I'm going to erase this line that's sort of separating the forms, and now it looks more continuous and streamlined. All right, it's in perspective, but it's paper thin. It's not dimensional fully. Now what I need to do is start projecting it to this vanishing point I haven't used yet. All right, so go back to what we always do. I'm going to use orange over here. I've got these guys going to orange on the left, up to the left rather, and I've got verticals. My verticals are here. Ooh, a little wobbly. And then I have this weird wild card thing we haven't really dealt with yet because we haven't had that. So I guess I'm making this a new color. This will be pink. These are just random angles that, I decided on as I made this. I guess we did that on our prism. I just didn't color code that prism. So yeah, those are just random angles of my choice. Okay. What I really need, though, that I haven't tried, is to add that purple side. So here I go. I'm going to go ahead and decide how thick I want the letter to be. How far back do I want it to go? You can start with maybe this corner and project towards your vanishing point. If you went on forever, of course, that would be a really long stretched out N, which is cool. These are like the outermost corners right now, just to give you a quick visual. Should remind you of a box, right? But I need to get every corner, so I'm going to go back and get every corner. Those are the corners that stick out, and any interior corners that you would also see. Now, if I tried to do that one, you can tell it would be behind this wall, so I wouldn't see that. This little guy's sneaky. You'd see that just a little bit. So I'm going to show that here. I can't see that one, and of course I already did that one. So I think these are all stretching out where they should be going. And before I color code them, I need to chop the form. So I'm going to go ahead and end the form by copying what's in the front of the form. So if this is horizontal, if this is converging to the orange, then I'm going to make sure that as I travel this direction and I chop the form, I do exactly what I did in the front of the form. I'm going to go towards the same vanishing point. In fact, a nice shortcut is to go ahead and do both so they're nice and even and you don't have a weird letter N. So just to be clear, since I'm teaching you guys this for the first time, these are all lined up. Okay. I've just set the depth of my form. Now I gotta stick with that for the rest of the design. All right. So next thing we're gonna tackle is the easy part. It's the vertical going straight down right here. It's mimicking the front of the form that exists there between those two converging lines. So it's gonna go straight down. Of course, this is extra. And now I have that blue line. This little guy was purple because he's going to there, and that one is purple as well because it's going to there. All right, the last part is perhaps the tricky part. We have to recreate that angle over here to mimic it in the back. But that was a random angle that we made up. So my best advice to you is to try to just create parallel angles. You could draw this whole form transparent if you used your vanishing points, and then you would find out exactly where it went. That's a really complicated way to do it. That's the technical way. So then you could tie it through there. But if you don't want to do all that work, then you can just run a parallel line until you run into the form. So most of you could just eyeball that. If you need to use your ruler, feel free to use your ruler. But if all else fails, draw the transparency of it and you'll figure out where it connects. All right, guys, that's the letter N. It's also the letter Z zooming away from us. So again, everything I teach you, look at it in multiple perspectives, multiple angles, and imagine what it could be. Like if it just continued zigzagging, what would that look like? Or if it, I don't know, did other things here. It could just be like an interesting playground type situation. The letter O is pretty simple, or any kind of cylinder is pretty simple. If it's lying flat, you could project lines straight out and lay it down like this. Sometimes you might need to do that. If that's the case, the vertical height comes from the outside of it, wherever it's visible, the outermost corner. Kind of looks like a can. I'm not doing a very good job on mimicking the curve, but that's one way. Most of the time you're not going to be necessarily wanting to draw something like an oval. You're going to be probably wanting it to stand upright like a letter. So I'm going to try to hurry up and show you that. So the front flat side facing me is what I'm going to tackle first. Just drawing it within those guiding spaces I gave myself. All right, so that's the front flat side. Nothing technical there, really. The back of it is going to project to this vanishing point. Now it looks like a straw or a tube, which could be a really cool concept as well if you're doing something abstract or even representational. Could it be the scope of somebody? Could it be somebody looking through something or hunting or stargazing? I don't know. Cannon, something shooting at us. But that's basically the idea of the letter O. You can pass that through and create the interior too. Guys, I am running out of time, so I guess we are not getting to organic shapes today. We will do that next time. Repeat this, do variations, and see what you can come up with. Maybe chop the form and continue it even if you can. Flip your learning sideways or upside down. Project and turn it different ways. Practice those two things today, and it sounds like that'll be enough. We'll save this for another time.